Hello everyone. I'll try and keep it snappy as I know you're hungry now. From that clip, it's pretty obvious that content marketing isn't just a new buzzword, but it's a marketing and communication discipline that's been around for at least 100 years now. But what's causing a new renaissance is the internet and the platforms and the networks that it provides. I suggested this session to ABTA because I'm passionate about the power of content to drive engagement and sales for the travel industry. And this isn't just a new romance for me. I was involved in a startup in 1999 that specialised in providing travel content to the world's leading online travel companies. I worked for brands such as Hilton, Intercontinental Hotels, British Airways, Virgin Atlantic and LastMinute.com to help them craft their content strategy and to deliver that content. So did it work? Well, the company was ultimately bought by Frommer's and then by, you guessed it, Google. So those companies clearly saw value in what we were doing. And one of my final projects before leaving to join Travelzoo was a one-off content project for British Airways to deliver customised destination guides to their routes. So a few years later, I met up with the head of BA.com and I asked him how that content marketing strategy had been working out for BA. And he told me that they sold £1 million worth of flights a month off the back of the content and the traffic that it was driving. But things are moving fast now, and content marketing is taking on many more forms than just adding text and images and video to your website to drive traffic and engagement. The Telegraph, who joined the panel today, launched a cruise booking site, and recently Travelzoo also acquired a booking engine. So publishers are becoming e-tailers. But more importantly, and perhaps relevant for companies like you, is that companies like ASOS and Net-a-Porter, which started life as online fashion e-tailers, are now launching magazines in both print and for the iPad. Men's fashion site Mr. Porter writes a regular column for Esquire magazine. And a recent BBC programme highlighted that ASOS had entered the top 5 online retailers in Australia without spending a single penny on a traditional digital marketing, but focusing purely on content marketing combined with social media. So fashion retailers are becoming publishers. So what's going on? And more importantly, what should you be doing that can help make content marketing work for your business? Well, to help me answer that question, I have a panel of content marketing enthusiasts to give us some more insight. So starting on the far left, we have Charlie Starmer-Smith, who was appointed head of travel at the Telegraph in 2001 and oversees all of their content for their website, for the Saturday and Sunday travel supplements, for Ultra Travel, Ski and Snowboard magazine and the Telegraph's travel apps due to launch later this year. Next to Charlie is Jill Corley, who's head of marketing for Disney Destination. She's responsibility for marketing the destinations across the UK and Ireland, with a key focus on Disneyland Paris, Walt Disney World in Florida and Disney Cruise Line. She manages a team working across the full marketing mix from advertising, media, digital promotion and CRM, as well as the trade, and joined Disney from British Airways. And last but not least is Dean Harvey, who is Digital Development Director at Audience Engagement Agency Designate, and his role is to foster an integrated culture, not just at the agency but with their clients, who include QONI, P&O Ferries and Disney. With a background in travel, marketing and search, Dean believes that great content will attract attention online, driving the brand and ultimately sales. So please join me in welcoming the panel. So I think we should start by probably kind of defining what we mean by content marketing. So we saw lots of examples there in the intro, like a jelly company publishing recipes or toy manufacturers launching a magazine. But what about today? So if we start with the most obvious content business, Charlie at Telegraph, what do you see content marketing as today and how's your business putting it into practice?
I think content marketing is, it's a huge umbrella term which encompasses really everything that you create, you publish, you share, you try and engage with your audience. And it really is saying what does my company represent to the wider world? How important it is to our company, it's everything we do is content marketing. We try, in the world of white noise, we try and curate, we try and edit, we try and give for our readers, our consumers, our users, a view of the world that we think is important. But it offers massive opportunity for travel brands to use us as a platform for getting their messages across. And I think that's where content marketing is going to be absolutely key in driving engagement and driving ROI.
And Jill, for you, when you talk about content marketing, what makes it different from more traditional forms of marketing at Disney?
For us, it's obviously making it relevant, making it, we're putting our consumer at the forefront of everything. With content marketing, it's key that you're thinking about what your consumer wants and you're looking and giving them content that they find valuable and they'll share. And for us, it's at every stage of the life cycle. We've talked about the life cycle from the inspire right through to the booking. And I think that's where content marketing can literally at each stage do a different job. And that's how we try to use it to keep our consumers interested in the brand.
Okay. And Dean, when you're talking to clients, you're trying to help them develop a coherent content marketing strategy, how do you define it to them?
I think what's interesting with content marketing particularly, it's basically the art of communicating but without overtly selling, which can feel counterintuitive almost. And I think what you're trying to do with content marketing is deliver, as Jill said, that kind of useful and interesting information. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to earn media rather than pay for it,
Right.
as you might do traditionally.
Okay. So any good campaign should really start with kind of having some idea or clear objectives. I know at Travelzoo, when we're trying to drive new subscribers, we set a goal for the number of new subscribers that we're trying to acquire and also how engaged and track how engaged they are afterwards. So how do you go about sort of defining objectives when you go out with some sort of campaign, Charlie? Is it just about traffic?
It's not just about traffic. I mean, audience reach is so important. I mean, people look at newspapers and see declining circulations, but often fail to realise that media brands' reach is bigger than it ever has been. So traffic's important, but you hear a lot of editors banding around big figures about 120 million unique users, 60 million unique users, and it's meaningless unless you know what they're engaging with, what they're interested in. And I think, so traffic, yes, but quality traffic. And by quality, I suppose, you mean you get a sense of, is this someone who is actually coming to my site, looking at the content I'm producing across social, across video, because they want to engage with it, because it actually is driving them on to do something else? Or is it just a browser who's looking at a quirky video and then moving on? And I think quality is what will define a successful content marketing strategy.
And Jill, outside of obviously ticket sales for parks, what are the other objectives that you set yourself for these campaigns?
I mean, key for us is measuring it and putting it back to the objectives of the campaign. So it depends on what you're trying to achieve initially. I mean, we look at everything in terms of measurement of right from the beginning of the campaign, whether it's image and awareness at the Inspire stage. It's about, quality of people. It's about how much they're engaging with the content, how long they're engaging. And we obviously use things like Google Analytics right the way through the booking process.
Okay. And what's the process? You're working with a variety of clients, so how do you go about setting realistic objectives that you can then deliver on?
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people fall into the trap because a lot of brand and content marketing happens in online. A lot of people fall into the trap that they try and measure it using those traditional online measures. They view it as direct response. And I think when it comes to content marketing and certainly brand marketing, our attitudes need to change a little bit. You need to look at your results and your objectives almost as though you might through the brand lens,
right.
Through your brand marketing lens as well. So.
Okay. So that's setting the objectives. Then it comes to sort of thinking about what sort of content. I guess the brochures in the day had a content marketing component to it, but I always think about content marketing as being sort of outside of just the sort of the product and the price. We find when we're marketing Travelzoo a deal that images are crucially important, and I think images played a strong part in Travel Republic kind of building their Google Plus audience, and even things like copy and headlines are important. But so Jill, I mean, when you're thinking about the types of content, what sort of types of content you're going to create outside of just information about the product?
I mean, it was mentioned yesterday, it's not the end of the brochure. That's an important part of the process. But what we try to do is not take that brochure and just put it on the website. It's about relevant content. I mean, videos in our industry, there's so many videos, so many photos that you can do. And I think on the website, if you can make the video relevant to that person, if they could put together an image of their holiday that will be relevant for their family, it's key to make sure it's tailored to your audience and tailored to that particular person. And again, it's about using advocates as well. You've got a lot of people who use your brand, they go on holiday. How can you take that content and recycle it back into your site so that inspires more people and inspires their friends in particular?
That's a good point. So when you talk to clients, Dean, do they tend to be sitting on quite a lot of content? Does it involve quite a lot of creating content from scratch? And is that quite expensive to do?
Well, it's a mix of both, really. I think what you've got to determine is how much of you've got to determine what your customers want first, and then if you've already got it, then that's fantastic. You can repackage it and then redistribute it as well. There's a lot of bad content out there, And our advice to certainly our customers is to examine every piece of content, and if it does one of three things, then you can't go too far wrong. Is it useful? Is it relevant? Or is it interesting? And then you won't go too far wrong. And I think it needn't be expensive. You can easily repurpose video and that will be redistributed, and you can even look at perhaps reusing customers' video. And as we heard yesterday, and probably going to hear more after this session as well, there's a real thirst for that video content.
Absolutely. And Charlie, you talked about driving not just traffic, but the right sorts of engagement. How do you decide which pieces of content drive the right customer into the site?
Well, I think the interesting thing is people talk about, relevancy and engagement, and I think if the travel industry is being really radical, they'd look at it and say, well, we shouldn't just put up on our brochures or on tablets everything that we think is great about the place, but actually have some elements of critique. Because I think when you see the success of TripAdvisor, you see what Net-a-Porter and ASOS are doing is actually talking about brands which aren't relevant to them or that they don't sell. It establishes credibility, which, in the media we thrive on. But I think there's an opportunity for really good content providers to add critique, which means when they say something's great, it has more weight, it carries more weight. Point out a few of the flaws, and I think, if your brand directors will let you do that, it could pay huge dividends in the long run.
Okay. And then, so who's creating this? Is it still just in-house journalists who are creating content? Has that changed dramatically over the last few years for you?
It has. I think the whole the language we use now at the Telegraph's changed. The journalist, the correspondent, the editor, those words are disappearing as we realise we need someone who is providing, yes, a key role in terms of content, but across all platforms, across all media. I mean, even talking today, we're essentially all content marketeers as we sit up here, and I think the skills you need as a journalist are different. You can't just rely on a single report. You need to have a voice, you need to be human and interact with your audience, and I think, again, that's something that perhaps the travel industry can learn from what retail are doing, is having a voice, is projecting through social media a bit of personality, because great face-to-face. We heard from John Lewis that their face-to-face customer interaction is fantastic, but does it translate to the messaging they send out over social, in their brochures, and whatever else they do? So that's really the role for the media, but I think for travel as well.
Okay, so it's more obvious with a media and a publishing business, but for someone like Disney, how do you manage the production of content while still obviously being true to the overall brand?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. People are scared of it, particularly things like user-generated content. How do you take that? How do you use it? We obviously have a lot of content ourselves. We use a lot of our consumers' content. We take that and we use it on our website. We use it in our campaigns. And it's just about finding people like bloggers that are interested, helping them take content. If you've got people out there who are relevant to your target audience, who are influencing your target audience, if you can help them create video content for them, it's about talking to them and making sure that you're getting your message through these people to the right consumer.
Okay. And Dean, yesterday we heard John Straw from Thomas Cook talking about how the customer service teams were generating the most frequently asked questions. So, perhaps in the run-up to Christmas, if some, summer holiday companies are seeing lower call volume, do you think it's realistic that they could use in-house teams to create that kind of, frequently asked questions type of content? Or if people have got resorts with reps in the resort, is it realistic to expect people like that to be able to create content now with the tools that are out there?
Yeah, I think absolutely, and I think the content that then gets created will probably have more personality and be more authentic and to the brand as well. I mean, absolutely. I think one of the things that a lot of companies can fall into the trap of, those that they try and do it without any kind of framework. Yes, you'll need to reinvest in training. Yes, you'll need to re-stress the purpose of why you're asking your teams, your staff, to create that content in the first place, to create that value for you. So you will need a framework, and what you'll also need is an editorial process. What we do with some of our customers and our clients is that we create content calendars for them, so they know what's being said, by whom, and when it's going, and what's expected of it.
Okay, that makes sense. So now we've sort of, where are we getting the content? We've got that, but obviously a big hurdle is how to get it live. There are obviously platforms out there like WordPress, the social media platforms that people can tap into, but they're not really integrated into the travel supplier's own site. And there are other platforms like Wildfire that people can use to actually create campaigns relatively cost effectively. But do you think that travel businesses need to think outside of commerce platforms and start thinking about publishing platforms, and what options are there for them?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think as well as a content strategy, you'll need to have a platform strategy as well. So each of the social media platforms out there all do something that's slightly different. So you need to determine, which one you're going to use, because they all do slightly different jobs. And you'll need somewhere for that content to live as well. And I'm a great advocate of keeping that content on your website, because ultimately it helps in search. Ultimately it helps you control the brand as well. But there's some neat technology coming down the tracks. I urge you to go and have a look at, there's a piece of kit, a bit of software called Storyfy. And effectively what Storyfy can do is it pulls in all content from all over the web and allows you to curate and control that content, and you haven't spent a penny on it's everybody else's footage, and you can then host it.
Okay. So with the content, actually, if we can go to a clip, I know Disney created some guides, and I'd just be interested to show it first, and maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you got that live and how you distributed it. So quite fun, but can you tell us just a little bit about, how did you, once you'd created the content or knew what content, how did you get that live, and then how did you actually kind of distribute that either out through trade or to the consumer direct?
Well, we had great fun making it, of course, and one of the things that guide was set up to do was just to create engagement. So, it followed one of the, some of those rule sets that I mentioned earlier. It was about being useful to that audience. We hope it was interesting as well. What was interesting about this one, though, is whilst it was a Facebook app that lived within the Disney Facebook page, they also distributed it out to other travel partners and travel intermediaries. So again, they were being useful to the travel traders, Disney pushing it out there. So the key metrics were engagement on that one, but there were some hard commercial measures as well, I think.
Yeah, this was designed to, once you actually bought your park ticket, to try and get you to use your ticket more while you're in the park, and it carried on into video content, it personalised it, it pulled information from Facebook as to what you liked. And we saw a great increase in ticket usage, about 14% over this summer. So it actually did influence the amount of people that used tickets. It picked up on some of the TUI stuff. We had the number of sleeps until you go on holidays. It had that countdown for the kids. It had all the weather, and it had lots of information, very, very similar to what TUI had done in terms of getting people excited on the run-up to the holiday. And it's really key. And we've now done a few different elements within that key period. We do a Mickey call that phones you, so you can set it up for your kids, where Mickey will actually call you before your holiday, and he'll tell you how excited he is to see you. And little things like that don't cost a lot, and actually that's been repurposed across all three of our brands now. So that one little idea. So content at lift stages, quite cheaply, can actually have a big influence on your business.
And so operators got an opportunity not just to supply product through different channels, but also the content to help them market that product, yeah?
Yeah, and when we give that out to our suppliers. The Mickey call at the moment is being used by Virgin, and it creates a fun, interesting USP for the brands.
Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the what and the how, so I'll just very briefly talk about the when. At Travelzoo, we've sort of built an expectation with our audience that they'll get our top 20 deals of the week at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday, and just routinely doing that to build that engagement. But I also was on a judge of an SEO competition where one of the guys had done a submission where what they'd done is they realised that there was a lot of search and noise online about Joanna Lumley going up the Nile to explore Egypt, and there wasn't a lot of content about that. So by creating blogs about where Joanna was going, and obviously being a supplier where they could then shift products, they just saw an enormous spike because people are obviously going on. So in terms of timing, can Telegraph must be the experts at kind of jumping on trends and stories in order to then drive volume. Is timing important?
I think timing's essential, and I think there'll be people sitting here who have small companies with small marketing budgets who can't create hugely interactive content cheaply, but what they can do is what they create is publish it at the right time. Simple things like Sunday afternoons, early evenings. I think Nigel touched upon it. they're absolutely crucial for travel inspiration. The week after Christmas, most people shut up shop, but people are sitting there, they're bored, they've had 4 turkey lunches, Granny Beryl's asleep on the sofa, and they're looking for things to entertain them. And travel is one of those key things. And by the second week of January, most people have actually decided, perhaps not in terms of booking, but actually decided where they're going to go. So if you can target those key periods, just type in search terms into Google Analytics, which are relevant to your company, and you can see, well, yes, there's a peak in January on that week. Right, let's try and target our content marketing strategy around that particular period. And it'll pay huge dividends. And we're at the start of it, really, at The Telegraph. And we can see how traffic grows just by being a bit clever about when you publish. And, of course, we heard earlier, on what platform.
Right, which leads us into search. Obviously, a lot of talk about Google today and yesterday, and a lot of the updates that Google have done have sort of moved away from links and put much more important on the value of social and social engagement. So I'm going to ask you, Jill, do you think companies need to just build their own audience, or is there an opportunity to tap into existing other social audiences that are out there?
I mean, it's great to have your own audience, but it obviously takes a lot more work. We work with, somebody mentioned yesterday about the celebrity audience. We work with a lot of celebrities. Somebody like One Direction going to our park has a phenomenal effect. Just one mention on Twitter from one of those guys, they have about between about 15 and 17 million followers. Literally, one mention, and it was literally trending around the world in the top 10. So use people like that, get them, talk to them before they go, get them to use their social media. Also, we linked up with the X Factor last year, which was a phenomenal success for us. We took the final 6 contestants to Disneyland Paris. They did a live concert there. The actual result of that was in terms of image and awareness of our product, was the same as the whole of our online spend for the whole year. So that content is key to engage with where our consumers are doing, what they're watching, and who they're interacting with.
Jolly, well, that's celebs. Obviously, there's a certain amount of celeb obsession out there.
We're big on X Factor.
Are they, or do you think news angles versus celebs, is one better than the other? Do you just need a balance of?
I think you need a balance. I think you need to think about what your company stands for and what celebrity would be, right for you. And I think be shameless about asking them to retweet things, because if you don't ask, you're not going to be on their radar. And if you get, as you just mentioned, if you get that retweet, it has a huge effect. I think with news, news angles, of course, they're key. Media brands don't have, the preserve of coming up with all great news stories. Anyone can come up with something, put themselves at the top of the agenda by being relevant to what their customers want. And we try at The Telegraph to think, would I read this? Would I watch this? Would I share this? And would I talk about it? And if it doesn't tick any of those boxes, then I think then it won't be ticking the boxes for your customers as well. Okay. So news, absolutely, but celebrities, I'm afraid to say yes, are important as well.
I think you could lower the sights a little bit as well. It's unlikely that everyone will get someone from One Direction to retweet your tweet. But I can give you some. There are some real examples. Manchester Airport has got 86,000 followers on Twitter. And Manchester Airport, as a group and as a social media account, they retweet interesting stuff all the time. So even just that
Manchester Airport can do it, anyone can.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you can give something to Manchester Airport that's interesting, and then all of a sudden 86,000 people are going to see it.
Great, and actually, congratulations. Last week you Designate won the Social Media Award at the Travolution Awards for a campaign they did with P&O, obviously in the audience.
Thanks, team.
I saw that you won, but I didn't really know what the campaign was about and why it was deemed a success. So.
Yeah, just very quickly, it was for our client who are P&O, and they were celebrating their 175th birthday. And the campaign idea was originally, if you remember the hidden camera shows, Dom Jolly, that kind of thing, where you'd leap out and surprise someone, and then you'd film their surprise, and it was along that theme. So what we did is that we surprised customers on board 6 or 7 sailings, and we gave them gifts, and we filmed their surprise. And what it made P&O Ferries look like was, it looked like it gave them a bit of personality, and they were giving something back, and the films were great, and they were distributed, and something like, we had a reach of about 12 million people viewed those videos, so it was great.
Okay, I didn't actually know that was the campaign, but it does lead quite nicely into the next topic, which is about sort of filming and video, which used to be, we tried it in 2001, frighteningly expensive to film and edit, equally frightening to host and stream, but now my 6-year-old daughter can edit together a pop video in about 15 minutes on my phone. So it has got a lot easier, and John Straw again yesterday was talking about the power of video to significantly improve kind of conversions. So I guess a question is that now an area worth investing? And let me just start with, again, another example from Disney, which a campaign they did last year actually encouraged me to film myself telling my daughter that we were going to take her to Disneyland Paris off the back of a campaign, which if we could just roll the next video from Disney, that'd be great.
We're going to Disneyland! Yeah! In Paris? Really? Would you like to?
Tear to your eye. Definitely ticks the emotion box, emotion and engagement. So, Jill, why don't you just tell us a little bit about, what did that achieve for you as a campaign?
Yeah, I mean, that's been one of our most successful campaigns. At that emotional level, it connected with people. It was based very much on consumer insights, which was a really strong, the connection that we had. In terms of this doubled our ad awareness, it ran for about 12 to 18 months. Huge increase in brand awareness. But the one thing that surprised us the most was that actually there's no offer in that. There's no real call to action in terms of booking. And what it did actually was double the offer awareness of the offer around that time. That was only put in online, it was only put through our normal below-the-line channels, but the power of that ad meant people were so much more open to our communication, and the metrics across the board just saw phenomenal results.
Okay, so if you've got a video there, so for example with the Telegraph, do you just have to buy an MPU and stream the video into it, or are there other ways that people can actually get the video content they create out there through, say, the Telegraph?
Yeah, and we've, in the past year, quite often embedded brand-focused videos in just because they're that engaging with the consumer and people want to see them. We had Brian Habana, the rugby player, racing a British Airways Dreamliner down the runway, and it was just great 20-second clip which reinforced something about the Dreamliner you didn't know, but also was engaging for our readers. We have a difficult balance between trying to establish ourselves as experts. You've got highly curated, edited video, as well as the quirky, pure traffic driving content. And I think I had a bit of a rude awakening about a month ago where we spent a fair bit of time and money making these beautifully arty Los Angeles snapshots of the city. Did okay, and then we did one 20-second clip of an ATM machine that they converted into a cupcake dispenser, and it just went completely viral, and reinforced probably why Americans have a problem with obesity if they're doing that. But it just goes to show you can get all that traffic, but what does it actually mean? And I think that's what you've got to think about. When you said how much it can cost, make sure that you're getting out of it what you want.
So you can chase quirky, but I guess if it's not relevant in the way that Disney was clearly very relevant, then you might just be wasting your time. Anyway, so Dean, do you find, what other techniques do you think, other than just quirky, are people using to just really try and generate sharing of video content?
I think it's whatever fits with your strategy, and Interbrand hinted at this earlier as well, as I think people are trusting advertising and brands less and trusting what other people say more, and we've seen that through use of TripAdvisor, etc. So in terms of the type of video and the type of content that you can get out there, if other people have filmed it, then clearly it's more trusted and it's more authentic.
Okay. Well, hopefully we've inspired a few people to think a bit more about being a little bit of a publisher when trying to sell. So maybe we can just leave people, because we're running short on time, with just a kind of a do and a don't. Any do's and don'ts for you in terms of advice?
I think the key ones for me are timing. So think about when you publish, day, week, month, and who you're targeting. Why would they read this? Why would they look at this? You can tick all your brand value boxes, but if it's not engaging, it's no use. You're wasting your money. Please don't. This appeal on behalf of all media. Make up new words for holidays like naycations and waycations. They don't work. We just delete them, and no one wants to hear about them. So that's just a small plea on my behalf.
Okay. And Jill, any do's and don'ts from you?
Do's, in terms of do's, put your consumer at the forefront of everything you do. Something really easy and really cheap is make a list of who the bloggers are, the celebrities, the influencers that your audience are talking to, and engage with these people. Give them the content that they want. It's a really simple way of getting stuff out to your target audience. And if you're actually creating relevant content, they'll take it. They're looking for that all the time. In terms of don'ts, don't always expect instant results. Some of the biggest projects that we've got there taken about sort of 12 to 18 months to come along. And if you're really going to make a huge stand, don't expect everything to happen in an instant.
Okay, from you, Dean?
Well, I've got some pet hates, as you know. So,
Yeah.
in terms of don'ts first, I mean, don't treat your audience like idiots. So, a picture of a cat and Happy Friday on Facebook is not content marketing. Don't do it. Neither is win an iPad competition, because what you'll get is loads of people who want to win an iPad, not book a holiday. So, avoid that kind of, again, banal, lazy communication. And in terms of it's quite simple. As I mentioned earlier, be useful, be relevant, and ultimately be interesting.
I think in terms of lazily implementation, my pet hate is when you click on something that's supposed to be a destination video, and it's basically a bunch of stills that just zoom around and zoom in and out. So that's not a video. Just use a gallery if it's pictures, and use video for video. So hopefully you've all got something out of that, some ideas generated there. So lots of good stuff there. Please join me in thanking the panel. Dean, Jill, Charlie.